Hello and welcome, friends. In this session, we are going to talk about the organizational hierarchy and what all MIS subsystems are going to be useful at which level in the organizational hierarchy, right? So let us talk about the decision levels in the MIS, right? So this is going to be the discussion today. Now, please understand. I hope you know that this pyramid depicts basically an organization. Why is this shape like this? Why is it not like a rectangle or a circle? The reason is very simple. At the lowest level, there the number of employees is the highest. Then as you go up in the hierarchy, you will find less and less number of employees at that particular level. For example, if you go to the topmost level, there would be just one CEO in the organization, or let's say 10-15 divisional managers or the functional managers. But as you come down, you would find that the number of employees would be a lot. For example, if you take example of your own college, you would find that there are a number of clerical employees. But if you move slightly up, you would find that the number of HOTs is limited to 15-20 only. And then you go further up, you would find out that there is just one principal. So that is why this shape is like a pyramid, right? Now please understand one more thing. You know that this is the lowest level, this is the middle level management, and this is the top level management, right? This is one thing that you have to keep in your mind. Now please understand, at the lowest level, operational decisions are taken, right? What do we mean by this? Operational decisions are repetitive in nature, structured situations, and generally operational decisions are taken by the line managers. So these are repetitive kind of decision making situations which keep on coming on a regular basis, and naturally these situations are structured, which means they are not very different. Almost all such situations are of similar nature. They are not very different, and as such, the line managers which are given the opportunity, which are given the responsibility to take such decisions, such operational decisions, they don't have to have a lot of skills, because the decisions which have to be taken, they are of repetitive nature, problems are of repetitive nature. So what they have to do is, they simply have to borrow from what was done earlier in the same kind of a situation, and they simply have to use the same solution in the current situation also, because these are situations that keep on happening on a regular basis. These are decision making issues that keep on coming on a regular basis. So they only have to look at the past and simply do the same thing in the current situation also, right? So that is why the line managers don't require a lot of skills. On the other hand, if you move a little up and if you go to the middle management level, you would find tactical decisions have to be taken here. Now please understand, they are semi-structured, which means some of the problems can be new, some of the problems can be just like the problems that were there earlier, but some of the problems can be novel, very different from the kind of problems that had come up earlier, right? And that is why they are known as semi-structured. They are not fully structured, but they are not fully unstructured also. So somewhere in between, they are half structured, right? And now these kind of decisions basically are taken by the middle management level, and many times the middle management level will be depending on the historical information. However, at some places where the problem that has come up is of a novel nature, then they have to rely on the current information. So they can not rely on historical only, while in the case of line managers, they were able to rely only on the historical information, because the problems were repeating themselves. So naturally, the solutions that were workable earlier, that were practical earlier, they had to be useful and relevant now also. In the case of tactical decision making, which happens at the middle level management, you require more skill in the middle management employee, because many a times the situations would not be structured, the decision making has to be different, and it simply cannot rely on what has happened in the past, and it has to look at what the current information is, and the decision making might be very different from what has happened in the past. So naturally, the middle management level would require more skills, and naturally they are going to get paid more for that also. And then if you look at the strategic level, and the decisions are taken by the top level in the organization, these are very, very complex and unstructured situations. For example, COVID-19, a very, very complex and unstructured situation. So what should the companies be doing? What should, for example, Parle be doing? Should they close down all their factories, or should they keep on producing? Because in any case, people would keep on demanding products like biscuits. So now this was an absolutely novel situation. Last time something of this sort happened was way back in 1920. So in that sense, it was absolutely novel, absolutely different kind of a situation. And that is why we are saying complex and unstructured situations. You have never earlier come across these kind of situations, and that is why you require a lot of skills to be able to take decisions at this level. And the information that you obtain is predictive in nature and has long-term perspective. What do we mean by this? Predictive in nature. We are not relying on information from the past. We are not relying on historical information. We are simply predicting what might happen in the future, and our production might go wrong. So we are predicting. For example, so many companies might have predicted what might be happening. They might have predicted that maybe by the month of June the situation would improve. By June 2020, and situation would improve. They would start producing more food products, or maybe in case of automobile firm, they would start producing more cars. They would start selling more cars. So this information that is required at the strategic level is of predictive nature, and that is why this information may not always come out to be true. It may not always come out to be accurate, right? So this is what the problem with the strategic decision making is, and naturally it requires a lot of skills. And please also understand, this also entails a lot of risk for the organization, because somehow if the decision is made in haste and a wrong decision is made, it will basically endanger the prospects of survival of the organization. So this is a very, very important level in the organization where very, very crucial decisions are made for the long-term survival and long-term prosperity of the organization, right? Now what basically we have to understand is, this discussion is something that you've already covered in general management or human resource management, or maybe also in strategic management. But what we are concerned with here is that what component of MIS, what MIS subsystem will be of use at what level in the organization. So we have seen these three levels. The lowest level, operational decisions have to be taken on a daily basis, tactical decisions at the middle level, and the strategic decisions at the top level. Now what we have to look at is what all components, what all subsystems of MIS would be applicable at which level in the organizational hierarchy. Now if you look at the lowest level, the MIS that would be used here would be the office automation system. We have discussed this, and the transaction processing systems, right? And we have discussed this earlier also. Generally the operational data is collected through TPS, and generally the OS helps in improving the productivity at the workplace. So generally these kind of MIS, they are basically used at the operational level for operational decision. Then at the tactical level, middle management level, we generally go for executive information system and information reporting system. We have discussed information reporting system in detail, and we have discussed that basically IRS is nothing but a summary of the data collected from the TPS. So they are going to be used by the middle level managerial personnel, and we said that they are going to be used for purpose of controlling and managing the organization. And again, executive information system, we have just now discussed what EIS is. Basically it helps the executives in making decisions, and it provides them very, very focused, relevant piece of information so that they can make the most appropriate decision when faced with any situation. And then what do we use at the top level? We use the expert systems, because at that point, at this level in the organizational hierarchy, we require expertise. So we use expert systems. Expert system basically provide expertise, and they can replace the human expertise. That is why they are known as expert system. We are going to discuss them in detail. And then we have got the decision support system also, which helps the top level management take decision. It provides them various decision alternatives so that they can choose a particular alternative over the others. And then again, executive information system can be of use at this level also. So it was of use at this level also and at this level also, right? So this is how the different subsystems of MIS are going to be used at different levels in the organization, right? Now let us talk a little bit about the causes of success and failure of MIS, right? Let's first talk about the reasons for failure. Why do MIS projects fail? Why MIS fails? Number one, lack of commitment from the top management. Now this is going to be a big problem. Why? Can you understand why? The reason is, if there is no commitment from the top management, and you would require the top management commitment so that you can have resources to install the MIS, because naturally you would have to install the MIS. You would need to purchase resources, be it the hardware or the software resources, be it the people who can operate this MIS. So naturally you require top management support, top management commitment. If the top management commitment is not there, naturally you may not be able to get these resources, and that is why I mentioned here there would be a scarcity of resources, just because the top management is not very keen about the MIS. They are not very optimistic about the benefits that MIS can bring to their organization, and simply they don't support such initiative. They don't provide resources. So this could be one reason for failure. Then many a times what happens is the MIS systems are designed, they are planned, and then further they are implemented without the involvement of the actual user. So you've planned a very wonderful MIS and it is getting implemented also. It has got all the fundings. However, you have never taken into account the user who would be actually making use of that particular MIS. It could be the managerial personnel, it could be the people. In case of transaction processing system, these are the people at the operation level. If, for example, they have not been involved and their concerns have not been involved, then naturally the MIS is going to fail. Why? Because ultimately what all aspects, what all needs the MIS is going to solve, this information can only be provided to you by the users. For example, we have talked about the transaction processing system. Now, what all activities should the transaction processing system be able to perform? This information can only be given by the user, by the person who is actually doing something at the operation level. For example, if you want to come up with a transaction processing system to manage the billing at the retail store, so you will have to take into account the opinion of the people who are manning the bill desk, the billing desk or the billing counter, because they will only tell you what all activities have to be performed by the transaction processing system to be effective in performing the billing task. If you do not involve them, you would not get their output, you would not get their input, and naturally you would not be able to come up with a system which is actually efficiently able to fulfill the requirements. So you have to involve the users also while you are designing it. Using this approach would also help you gain the support of the users, because they've been involved in the design phase, in the implementation phase, so they would be more keen to adopt this new system. So this again is always going to be a good strategy. You have to involve your users. And then there would be a change resistance. People generally are resistant to change, they don't want to change, and whenever there is a MIS coming in, it could be replacing the manual information system, or it could be replacing an earlier MIS which was existing. So there's a new upgraded MIS which is coming up. In both the cases, people would find it difficult to accept the change, and this is something which is pretty common with all the individuals. And in fact, you have read about change resistance and the Lewin's resistance, change resistance model, change management model in organizational behavior also. So naturally you have to take care of such kind of issues that might come up from the HR perspective and the OB perspective, organizational behavior perspective. Now, how can we ensure success of the MIS? First thing is you have to get the top management support. Now this is very, very important, because the top management support, and you have to you have to convince them that the MIS is going to bring them some profit, that the MIS is going to be of benefit to the organization. Then only are they going to support you, right? And when there is top management support, you would also be able to obtain sufficient resources, be it the hardware, be it the software, be it the training resources required to train the users in the new MIS that you have implemented, be it the financial resources that are required to procure the hardware and the software, be it the people that you require for the implementation of the MIS and for operationalizing of the MIS. So you would be able to get all these resources when there is a top management support. So these two things become very, very important. Again, as I said, you have to involve the users in MIS planning and implementation, because they know what is the requirement, what all requirements should be fulfilled by the MIS, and they will let you know that these requirements have to be fulfilled by the MIS. Then accordingly you will plan and design your MIS, and it will be more effective. If you don't take into account their opinion, then your MIS, it might look like a very wonderful system, but it would not be able to solve the problem at the ground level, right? For example, let's talk about the top management executives who have to take decision and they want a decision support system. Now, if you don't involve these people while you are actually planning and designing this decision support system, it may so happen that the decision support system you have designed and planned, ultimately it is of no use to these people, because their needs were different and you came up with a decision support system which was providing entirely different functionalities, which was doing entirely different activities. So you also have to involve the users at the planning and the implementation stage, and I told you that this will also make them more keen to adopt the new system, right? So in that sense, if you involve the users, it would be easier for you to implement the system also. Then, as I said, there could be resistance. And how do you overcome resistance? Carrot and stick approach. For example, carrot and stick is reward and punishment. For example, those who adapt the new system, those who complete the training in the new system, and those who start implementing the new system, they could be given some rewards, they could be given some incentive, because after all, your MIS, the new MIS that you have brought into the organization, it is helping the organization improve its profit margins or improve its efficiency. So whatever the gains for the organization are, they could be shared with the employees. So this would be the carrot, this would be the reward. And in case the employees don't show keenness to adapt the new system, they don't attend the training modules, and they do not work on the new MIS that you have implemented, then naturally they could be punished. They could be punished in a subtle manner. For example, they could be demoted, for example. However, rewards are always going to be better than the punishment. So you should try to rely more on rewards, more on the carrot than on the stick. And then naturally you have to provide training support to the users also, because naturally there could be resistance because they do not know how to work on the new system. So you will have to provide them training support, because once they get trained, they would find it easier to work on the new system, and they would be more eager to adopt the new system. So this is one more thing that you have to take into account. Many MIS projects fail just because you do not provide adequate training to your employees. So you have got to provide adequate training to the employees, those employees who would be using the MIS. So naturally, when ETM, electronic ticketing machine, were introduced in the Uttarakhand Parivahan Nigam for the first time, they provided training to all their conductors. And please understand, these conductors are people who are not very well educated. They are people who probably, some of them would not even have completed their class 10th. So you needed to provide them training. And once they were provided training, and while undergoing the training, they understood that ATM is far easier, electronic ticketing machine is far easier to operate than the manual ticketing system. They simply adopted the new system, and the resistance to the new system also decreased. And as far as the buy-in from the users is concerned, how to buy in means how do they actually accept the new system. You will have to do one more thing apart from these things. These things if you do, there are more chances that the users will adopt the new system, and they will want to adopt the new system. One more thing that you have to do is, and this is very, very crucial, you have to show quick results. Now, because if the quick results are there and you start showing results and the results are actually getting translated into organizational profits, what will happen? The top management support would remain there, the top management would continue their support, and these people, the users, their resistance would also decrease, because now they have started seeing the benefits of the new system, right? So you have to show quick results. Even if you have a very complicated kind of MIS project, it may so happen that you implement one module and show to the stakeholders that, see, this particular module has been implemented, now see how easy it is. Now this could be one quick result, how easy it is for you to operate, or for example, how it is improving our productivity and efficiency, how is it getting translated into more profits for the organization, how is it getting translated into reduced costs of production or cost of servicing, how is it getting translated into less number of accidents or less quality defects. So you have to show some quick results so that the people, the other stakeholders, remain convinced of the benefits of the new MIS system that you are implementing. So these things you'll have to take into account. Thank you very much for your time. In the next sessions, we'll move on to unit number 2. We'll be talking about the hardware and the software and the more technical issues related to the MIS. So thank you very much for your time.